welcome to the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm Annie Love, a coach, mum to all boys, and your host for soulful conversations about building a life and a business that feel good from the inside out. Here we talk about mindset, money, and what it means to keep seeking the light and finding joy, even when life or business feels hard. So sit back and settle in. I am so glad you're here. Hello and welcome to the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm Annie Love and this is episode 129. You might hear people talking about having 6-figure launches and 7-figure businesses. And when they make statements like this, they are almost always talking about revenue. And there's a definite focus on income and revenue, especially in the online business industry. It's a flashier number to share. Most people don't talk about their profit. Now, revenue is great. We definitely want to have solid income coming into our businesses and bank accounts. However, what's more important is the profit. So in traditional accounting terms, the revenue comes in, you pay your expenses, and the profit is what's left over. But spoiler alert, there's often not a lot left over unless we are being intentional about keeping profit in our business. If you imagine we're filling up a big bucket with that income and there are holes in the bucket, then it doesn't actually matter how much we're putting in the top if it's all leaking out the bottom. Now, if this is the case in your business, some of the symptoms you might notice are that cash flow feels really tight, even when sales are strong. So you're bringing money in, but somehow there never seems to be enough left over to pay yourself properly or build savings and buffers or invest in other things. You're often thinking, where did all my money go? Where is that cash in the bank? You might not be paying yourself consistently or at all. So, if you have your team and expenses are paid on time, but your own income is the last on the list of priorities. You might notice that the business has grown a bit messy. There's overlapping systems, unused software, too many contractors or overlapping roles. There's money trickling out in 1,000 tiny leaks rather than one big one. You might find yourself feeling very busy, but still feeling quite poor. There's plenty of activity, a full calendar, a full inbox, and yet you're not building up the reserves or paying down debt. You might be selling more, but keeping less. So your revenue line climbs, but your profit line stays flat or drops. That is a red flag. You might have decision fatigue and stress about money. So when expenses balloon, it often shows up emotionally too. Stress around bills, avoidance of financial reports, resentment towards the business, or not sleeping and staying awake at night worrying about money. And another symptom might be that you've outgrown old systems. So the business may have scaled in revenue, but not in structure. So manual processes, ad hoc contractors, and unmonitored expenses start to weigh things down. Do any of those things sound familiar to you? When we focus on growing revenue without protecting our profit, we just stay on that hamster wheel of hustle. And that's not what we want. So before we talk about the 5 sneaky expenses to cut or rethink, I want to remind you that a great place to start when you look at your expenses is to ask 2 questions. Okay, admittedly, they are big questions, but they are important nonetheless. So the first one is, what are your goals? And the second is, what are your values? If we know where we want to go, we've got a goal in mind, and we also know what's important to us, it makes it so much easier to think about how those expenses fit into the bigger picture. Now, if you're not sure what your values are, you are very welcome to jump into a free resource that I have on my website at annielove.coach/values, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's just a short little mini workshop that you can work through just to find out what your personal values are. All right, let's get into it. Here are 5 expenses you could look at trimming this month that won't hurt your growth. In fact, they'll probably free you up with more money and more clarity. So, number 1, subscriptions and tools that you don't use. You know the ones, the trendy social media app you signed up for but never really clicked with, or the project management pro account you forgot you even had because you're mostly using the free version. Now, I'm all about tools that make your life easier, but if you're not actually enjoying them or using them, they are just quietly nibbling away at your profit. So take 15 minutes, do a quick audit of your recurring expenses, and cancel or downgrade anything that doesn't spark joy or revenue. So one way to do this might be to print out your bank statements from the last couple of months and go through with a highlighter and just highlight any of those recurring subscriptions. Now, I did this fairly recently with my Xero subscription, which is the accounting software that I use. I was paying $70 a month for it, but realized I didn't really need to be on that package because it just had features in it that I didn't actually require. So I downgraded the package to the version that's now $35 a month, and that was a saving of $420 across the year. Now, if you're on my email list, you'll know that I've also just moved email marketing platforms. I have been using a system called ActiveCampaign for many, many years. And for the past year, I've also been investing in an all-in-one platform called Kajabi, and it has email functionality as well. And as my ActiveCampaign subscription was up for its annual renewal, it seemed a bit silly to be spending money, a lot of money actually, trying to run both of them. So I've recently moved my email across to Kajabi as well. This move was a bit more complicated and involved than my change in subscription on Xero, but ultimately it was a good decision to clear out and streamline, and it's a saving of about $700 a year. Now, number 2, courses you are not implementing. Ooh, this one, it stings a little. It resembles me. Hands up if you've ever bought an online course thinking, this is the one thing that will fix my business, only to watch one module and then let it collect dust in your inbox. Yep, me too. Now, I am a big fan of continuous learning, and I'm pretty sure it is one of my values too. However, the truth is more information is rarely what we need. What grows our business is actually implementation and taking the messy action. So instead of investing in the next shiny course, commit to finishing or at least revisiting something you already have. That simple shift can protect your profit and your time. I keep a running list of the subjects I'd like to learn more about and courses or training that I'd like to invest in, so when the time is right, I can jump in with intention. Number 3, discounting your services. Now, this one is pretty huge. You may not think about this as an expense, but if you are constantly discounting your prices or offering mates rates or saying yes to every request for a deal, you are cutting into your profit before you've even begun. Remember, every discount you give comes directly out of your pocket. And more often than not, the clients who push for discounts are the ones who end up draining your energy. So this month, try an experiment. Hold firm on your prices, even just once. Notice how it feels. And over time, how much more sustainable your business becomes. All right, number 4. Too many tech upgrades too soon. I think we've all been there. A brand new laptop, a fancy podcast mic, or a ring light setup when the old stuff still does the job just fine. And I'd probably tie into this category investing in flashy marketing like websites or ads before you are ready. And don't get me wrong, these things can absolutely be valuable. But in the early stages, your energy is better spent on organic connection, showing up, building trust, talking to people. And you don't need fancy equipment or investing heavily in ads to do that. These big purchases often come from the belief that we need to be more professional to be successful. But the truth is, your message is the magic, not the gear. So before you upgrade anything, ask, is this actually a bottleneck? Or is it just a desire to feel more legit? So I've recently upgraded my laptop, and my old laptop was 12 years old, so it's actually made a huge difference to me just in terms of efficiency and time, because it was starting to get really slow and I couldn't update any of the apps and etc. etc. I reckon 12 years of use is a pretty good return on investment. It was a good time to upgrade, and I'm really happy that I did that. But it's a really good practice to think critically about whether you need to invest in a new piece of equipment before you do that. All right, number 5. This is what I call lifestyle leakage. So let's talk about the sneaky little lifestyle expenses that creep into business. Maybe it's daily cafe runs, business lunches that don't really feel necessary, or my personal weakness, pretty stationery. Do love a run to Officeworks. Now, I'm not saying you can't enjoy these things. If they genuinely light you up and make business feel good, please keep them. But if they're just a habit, then trimming them back a little can free up cash flow without making you feel deprived. So there you go, 5 areas where money might be leaking out of your business. Unused subscriptions, dusty courses, discounts, fancy tech, and lifestyle creep. Now, none of these cuts will hurt your growth. In fact, they will protect your profit and give you more breathing room. Cutting expenses can feel a bit scary and honestly just one of those things that, it doesn't feel very sexy to want to do an audit of your expenses, but it can be so valuable and powerful. But it can feel like you're shrinking instead of growing when you start looking at your expenses. But remember, when you cut expenses, you are not depriving yourself. You are creating space for what really matters. More profit means more breathing room, peace of mind, and sustainability. You can sleep better at night knowing that your cash flow is actually flowing. So, what is one expense you are ready to lovingly let go of this month and create more space and freedom? Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have the most beautiful week, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Thank you so much for being here in the Light Seekers Lounge with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I would so love it if you could share it, leave a review, or come and say hi to me over on Instagram at annielove.coach. Until next time, keep seeking the light.